Hey, it's Mark Lynn here with your video thought for the day. We're pulling into the weekend and we're doing it by looking at the book of Joel, Old Testament minor prophet book, in just a few minutes. By the way, if you want Joel in more detail, I wrote a book on the minor prophets. It's got all of them in there. Don't hesitate to get it. Meanwhile, Joel. This is a great book. It's short, but it's punchy. It goes from locusts to the Lord's day. Let's look at it together. Imagine waking up and you find your entire garden, your yard, your trees, the whole world devoured by locusts. I'm talking crops destroyed, fields laid bare, no yard to mow, and famine looming. This devastating scenario sets the stage for the book of Joel, a prophetic message that starts with a natural disaster, but expands into a vision of God's ultimate judgment and restoration, like so many of the prophets. So today I want to explore with you how this short but powerful book moves from immediate crisis to eternal hope, in hopes that you too can always find a way to move from an immediate crisis to an eternal hope. Let me first summarize the book, then I'll give you a memorable verse and then some practical application. The summary. This is a book of basically crisis, repentance, and promise. And you can divide the book into 3 sections. Chapter 1 has got this locust plague. It's a devastating locust invasion of God's judgment on Judah. And so then from the locust plague in chapter 1, the judgment is chapter 2, which has the first 17 verses, a call to repentance. The prophet is urging the people to shuv in Hebrew, to return, to turn back to God and do it with sincere hearts. And then the third section of the book is from verse 18 through the end of chapter 3. And that's where Joel prophesies about a restoration that God will give, a future outpouring of his Spirit, a coming day of the Lord. And so these sections, this book in 3 sections, gives the same prophetic message, but tailored specifically to different circumstances of God's judgment, the need for repentance, restoration, and the promise of God's presence among his people. Now, let me give you a memorable verse. In one of the most famous verses, because it's quoted in the New Testament by Peter in his Pentecost sermon, comes from Joel chapter 2, verses 28 and 29. There, God is speaking, and God says, afterwards, I will pour out my Spirit on all people. See, in the Old Testament, God would selectively give his Spirit. He'd put it on David, and he'd put it on Saul, and then he took it off Saul, and he'd give it to a prophet, and then it was a selective. But Joel says, there's going to come a day where I'll pour out my Spirit on all of my people. Your sons and your daughters will prophesy. It says, your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions. I had a very vivid dream last night. I guess that makes me old. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions, even on my servants, men and women. I'll pour out my Spirit in those days. This powerful promise points to a time where God's Spirit would be poured out abundantly. A prophecy that we Christians see fulfilled at Pentecost and in the ongoing work of the Holy Spirit. All right, third, practical applications. How do we respond to God's call? Well, first, we got to wake up. We got to recognize his wake-up call. The locust plague was a call to attention. We need to be alert how God may be trying to get our attention even through difficulties. Number 2, let's practice genuine repentance from the heart, not just an outward show. Examine our hearts and turn to God sincerely. And then 3, let's look forward with hope. Even in the face of judgment, Joel teaches us, there is future restoration, and we can hope in God's promises no matter our current circumstances. So let's do this. And we'll see us move from a plague of locusts, a temporary crisis, to a promise of spiritual abundance and eternal hope. It's a wonderful journey in 3 short chapters from devastation to hope. But we're not to live in the devastation. We live in the hope, take it into the weekend. That's why I made this your video thought for today.